everybody, this is Tina from Rehatch Designs. Today we're going to do something using book pages, and it can be any book pages that you have, but I just thought today we could try and use up some of the stuff we have laying around. And the book pages I'm using are mainly pages that are very kind of brittle that you can't necessarily put in a book, or ones that I wouldn't put in a book necessarily because they're not real interesting. All I'm going to be doing is tearing these into strips of about 1 inch wide. And just, it doesn't really matter how long they are. You don't want them super long, but you want them, probably about 5 or 6 inches. For the most part, that's a good amount. You don't want small pieces. You can use a few small pieces here and there, but it's kind of like collage. If you use a lot of small pieces, it has kind of a different effect when you're done. So anyway, I'm just going to go through and I look for different textures and different colors and different fonts. And here I'm showing you, I have some old Christmas balls, and they have, some glue on them and all kinds of stuff, and glitter. And then I have some things I bought from the Dollar Tree. It doesn't really matter what you use. You can use any shape that you want. So I'm going to start out with these ones that I have that I pulled off of a Christmas wreath that they don't even have all the tops on them or anything. We're just going to go with it. We're just going to take this trash and make it into a treasure. So anyway, what I'm going to use is I like to use my gel medium, but you can use Mod Podge, you can use white glue. It doesn't really matter. I like the gel medium when I'm doing videos just because it dries really fast and it works well. The other thing about gel medium is it sticks to anything, so you don't have to do a kind of a base coat or anything to make, because some of these surfaces are a little slick. So what this will do is it'll make sure it'll stick. So this is kind of a messy process, but it's fun in a lot of ways, and you could honestly do this with kids, because this would, it's a kid. Some of it, the hot glue part probably not, but for the most part, this part, get all the help you can get. Now I take my strips and I go long ways down the bulb. And I will tell you this, I'm having trouble with this one right here, and the reason is it's too wide. The wider the strip, the harder it is to get them on there. So you want them to be thin enough to where they're easier to get on and get the sides down. And now you do want texture. The whole point in doing this is to get some texture. And so you want them glued down 100%, but don't worry about them being bumpy or lumpy. That's like this has some glitter glued onto it with a design, and it's going to add some texture. You see that little snowflake? But that's okay, because in the end, it adds to the whole look of the ornament. And the one thing you don't want to do, if you see on the bottom, is you don't want all of the pieces to end up at the same spot. You want to kind of try and have some longer pieces going over the bottom, and then not everything all ending up in the same spot as far as the ends go. That's the only other trick I can say. And other than that is just make sure everything is glued, and I go over the top of it with a whole layer of the glue when I'm done, and then I kind of take my hands and make sure everything's smushed down and add glue to it. And that's the most important thing, is making sure everything is glued down when you're done. Now you could do this kind of like a paper mache and soak it in like white glue or something, but I found that was even messier, and I don't know, the papers, if you have fragile papers like I do, they fall apart quite a bit, and you wind up with chunks, and you don't really want chunks. You want kind of strips. It turns out looking better. It's kind of like in a collage. You don't want a bunch of little pieces. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am going to be doing it with music paper. It adds a kind of a different look to it. and so I'm going to just take different types of music paper, different fonts, same thing as you would do with the uh, other papers, except this time you're using music paper. And I did a bunch of these for a craft show once, and I didn't even decorate them as much as we're going to do these. And they sold out within an hour, so people really liked them. So, anyway, you do not have to use a tear ruler. You can just use any ruler you want. I'm doing it for a little extra texture. So then again, we're just going to do the same thing with the music strips that we did with the other, uh, you know, uh, pieces that we had, the papers. And one thing I will tell you is that when you buy used, especially antique books, a lot of times you'll get them and the papers will be very brittle and you can't really use them for pages. So this is a great way to use those up. Because sometimes you just really don't know until you get the book whether or not the pages can be used the way that you wanted them to. And, they're old pages and they look good and they have a great patina to them. Well, this is a great way to use those up. And as you can see too, my music paper also, it varies in colors and fonts, and you want to do that with any of your papers, just your regular papers or your music paper. It really does add to the overall look of this when we get done, as to adding different kinds of papers in there. And again, you want to make sure that you go all over it when you're done, and just add. I don't think you can add too much glue, really, guys. It is messy, and as you can see here, I'm just taking my fingers and squishing it all down and making sure that it's all completely done, and my hands are in bad shape, that's for sure. So now all we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and put those and let those dry for a little bit, because I would say if you have an opportunity, hang them and let them dry overnight. It seems to work better. So that's what I did on mine, and I let them all dry, and then we moved on to the next step. Okay, so here what I'm showing you is I took some permanent ink and I just got out a bunch of my Sampool stamps. You can use any stamps that you have around. You kind of want long ones that will fit on the on your papers, and I just stamped all different kinds of stamps. Here I'm using the same one, but it's just more effective to go ahead and use the same one over and over. But I'm just kind of showing you what I already did. But you do have to use a permanent ink, because if you do not, it will smear. So then what I'm doing is I'm taking all of my papers and I am putting these strips that I stamped onto my bulb. And this is a bigger one that I got from the Dollar Tree. And this really shows them off. It really looks cool when you're done, because you've got all these old papers, and these papers I'm using here just so happen to be French book page, and you've got a lot of French font. They don't have to be, but honestly, I had some that you could not put in a book, so why not use it for this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use these all over, and I'm going to mix those with some music pages also, or pieces of music strips, because I want the variation in there too. So I want a lot of variation in this one. It's going to be a little bit different than the other ones, but it does have the stamping on there, and that really looks cool. It just really adds a lot to it. If you wanted to, you could possibly do the strips in, the stamping in like red or a different, font or whatever, or I mean, not font, but different color. And that could add something to it. And I don't know why you probably couldn't even do pictures or something too. Now, I'll tell you the truth, on the larger bulbs, it is actually easier to do this. But anyway, after you do all that, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and start a new project and we're going to use the same strips that we had before. But these are two bells that I got from the Dollar Tree, and they're just plastic. I think I got them a couple years ago, but they sell them all the time. Other places sell them. And so you can get them very, very cheap. And they're meant like as a tree filler, to put in your tree. Or I guess you could put them on a wreath or whatever. But they're not real exciting. And they're not the same, and it doesn't really matter. The inside's gold. That's really kind of all that matters. You will see the inside. So we're going to do the same thing to this as we did with the uh, Christmas bulbs, only we're going to go ahead and cover right over that poinsettia or that texture. Because again, it's not going to matter. It's going to, in the end, the texture is going to make this look fantastic. Um, I think in the end, it just gives it more character. So the thing on this that's a little different is you have an end there. Make sure you put enough glue on the end to stick to it, and then later we cut that off and kind of file it down. But you just want to make sure you have enough glue there. And I'm kind of starting at the top and going down. My strips are long enough, but if you start some in the middle, that's okay too. You're going to end up patching it anyway. And I do kind of make sure that I vary the different types of papers. Like I'll put a music page, and I try not to put the same stamped image or, next to another one. So I am kind of paying attention to what I'm doing as far as doing that all the way around. And this doesn't take as long as it seems like it would. None of these really do. They're really kind of a a mindless project. You just go through and add glue and do that all the way around. But the big thing on this one, though, is you just want to vary the different types of strips. That's all I can say. And make sure you have enough glue at the top and the bottom so that later on when you go to file it off, that it's stuck on there good. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. You just go back and add it. So that didn't take me that long to do that. And I did both of them pretty quick. Okay, so now I'm just taking the original smaller repurposed balls that I had. And this is satin glazing liquid. And you can use that to put over this with, I'm showing you I'm just taking my vintage photo, and we will use that later. You just mix a little of the glazing liquid and you mix it with that. In the one jar I showed you, I just use clear glue that you get from the dollar store, and then you can also use just brown paint. You don't have to have vintage photo, and you can mix it with clear glue. This is the clear glue and vintage photo that I mixed together, and that makes kind of like an antique finish that you can use. And then I have some stuff that I bought a while back, and it is Patty Pockets, and it is I don't know if she still sells it, but it pretty much works the same as the clear glue with the vintage photo. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead. I'm making a mess all over my hands. But what it does is it kind of seals it, and it also highlights the texture. And that's what I think I like about it. And I'm just going to go through and do that with all 4 of those small ones. And now I've got the one that we did the stamping on and the different textures. Look how cool that looks just by itself. Isn't that neat? I mean, you could do nothing else to that and it would look good. This time I'm going to take my glazing liquid and I'm going to go ahead and mix up my own kind of cover, because I want it to be lighter than the other Patty Pockets that I used. I want to really be able to see all that stamping and all the other stuff on there. And this will dry completely clear. And again, this seals it, and it also, helps if you missed any spots or anything as far as gluing them down. But I love how this one looks. Like you could do nothing to it, put a bow on it, and it would be just pretty, just the way it is. Now I'm going to use this same glazing solution on a few other things later, but depending upon the project, you may want it lighter or darker, or you could have done the other one just completely clear. So I'm going to take a couple of others that I did, and I'm just going to go over those again with this same glazing. And it does dry lighter, but it is a little bit, you know, uh, faster drying than the other one, and it also is going to dry a little bit lighter because you don't want to cover all of your pages and everything, and they're going to be a background, but you do want them to be part of the whole design. You don't want to cover them up. Now I will do things later on where you actually do cover them up, but for this right now, and I'm going to add the same glazing to my bells, all over those. And we will actually on the bells and one other ones we'll add another coat of um, kind of an antique thing afterwards, but you'll see why later. But the big thing on this, again, make sure that you get all the way around and get everything in. And, it just, what it does is it highlights all of the texture. And that's a good thing because you're trying to get texture. That's what you want on this. Okay, so now this is what they look like dry, and these are the four small ones that we did. And what I'm showing you here is one of them had one of the plastic tops, and I'm going to take it off because the other ones didn't have tops on it, and I'm going to make them all match. It's going to be a set. And what I'm going to use is I have my rusty wire, and all I'm going to do is I am going to loop it around the top of this bulb and just kind of twist it and make a little hanger. So it's going to have a little rusty hanger. It's going to kind of go with the whole look that we're going to go in for here. And I twist it around a couple times, and you want to make sure it's tight. And you could even add some hot glue or something if you want to, but you really don't need to. And this kind of just is going to complete our look with our whole thing that we're going to do here. These make a great, you'll see when they're done, they make like a great little gift to do like 3 or 4 of them. And these were total sellouts when I did my craft shows. People love these. So I had bought these rusty stars, and then I rusted my own bells. And I'll put in the description box what I can find of the stuff that I bought. Some of it I bought a while ago, but also I'll put in there my rusting. Anyway, I have some twine there, and it's a really kind of cool twine. It has a very kind of vintage look to it. And so I'm going to go ahead and do, here I have one I already did. I'm going to show you what I did to those. Basically, I wire my rusty bell and my star together with some of my rusty wire. Then what I do is I'm going to go ahead and take, these are actually just pieces of greenery that I bought from the dollar store because the whole like big piece or whatever is too big for these. So I just cut them in little pieces. And now I'm going to hot glue those on. Just to put some greenery on the top and just kind of placing them where I want them. And I use hot glue for all this because, that kind of works the best. And now what I'm going to do, I actually wire the bell and the star on around the top. And then I kind of twist it and then cut off the edges and smush them down because you don't want them to poke anybody. You could just hot glue them on, but I put them on that way so that the bell would actually, ring. But anyway, then what I do is I go ahead and eventually just hot glue the little bell and star in place where I want it because otherwise it kind of moves all over the place. So then I'm going to go ahead and I take my twine and I tie a bow and I decide where I want the bow. And I just put the bow around the whole little top part there because that to me is, what we're trying to accentuate the whole top of this. That's really the only decoration that these are going to have is just the top because they're small. And I just go ahead and kind of cut that and place everything where I want it. Then take my hot glue gun and, just make sure that everything stays where it needs to be. And I do all 4 of them exactly the same way. Like that bell's moving all over the place. So even though it's wired in there, I could leave it like that, but I really kind of want it to stay. So I'm going to glue that down too. And then I'm going to go ahead and I bought some picks, these little pick things over to the left that you see, that I got those at the Dollar Tree, but they sell them anywhere, any kind of little greenery you have. But when you're doing these, you kind of need small things. So a lot of the stuff that you buy is kind of big. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of figure out where I want to put those. And I'm going to just hot glue those in. So now here I have, this is the one that we did that is the with the stamping and the different fonts. Oh wait, this is not the stamping one. This is the one that we did that had just the plain paper. It didn't have any music paper. It just had regular paper. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking out an IOD transfer. It's this year's, but they're really hard to get. I got mine kind of early, so but any transfer, any napkin, anything you want. I will say this about doing a transfer on there. They end up looking like a hand-painted bulb. They really look so cool. I really, really love it. You could use stickers, anything. But these transfers, they just really do look like you hand painted them, which I could not do. Now, if you can hand paint things, then go for it. The thing about the transfer is a little tricky on a round bulb like that. What I did is I just kind of put the middle part of it down, and then I go around the edges, and then I lift up and I smooth it out. I go around the edges, smooth it out. Lift up, and if you don't get it all down, you can always lay it back down. Now, the one thing that I do, if you notice, is I always have my one hand on the transfer so it doesn't move, because you can always fix and add, if it lifts up, if you're in the same place. But if you move it, then it's really hard to do that. Okay, it works the same way with the stencil. If you're stenciling, something has to keep that stencil in place. So, and on these transfers, you just have one hand on there, and it will work. And they're very easy to do. So I highly recommend them, or a lot of transfers, because it does really make this look like it's a hand painted, ornament when you get done, because it blends into the background, especially when we put a cover on it. So look at that. So now I went through all my transfers, and this is a different transfer. It's a Prima, and I will put the link for that. If I think they're still selling them. And you can, I'm just mixing different ones, so just to make it. So I'm going to put this Merry Christmas down, and again, you're going to do exactly the same way. Make sure you get it all down, holding it down with one hand. And it is tricky on a round bulb, but it's very doable. You just want to make sure that you have everything that has contact, and just take a little bit off at a time. That way, if some of it's up, then you can just go ahead and put it back down and get the other pieces. Like, I think I pull this up, and then part of it's, not done. I don't remember which part, but I just lay it back down and line it up, and it works just fine. So, you get so many little pieces with these transfers that you can make a ton of stuff. So, and I'm making these for gifts. So, you know, to me, now what I'm doing is when you get done, you take the plastic and you burnish whatever you've done. And that just makes sure that all of your pieces are laying down. And you need to do that every time you do a transfer. Is take that slick piece of plastic that you just took off of there on the slick side and just kind of go over it and make sure that it's all down really well. And so now I found these two pieces of holly that I thought I'd put off to the side. Um, you could have just left the candy canes on the front of this, but I just kind of feel like on a round bulb, it kind of moves around. And so I do have a front and a back on these, but I do want the back side to look good too and have some interest. So that's why I did that. Now, on these small transfers like this little holly, it's really, really easy because, you're not going around so much that surface. So again, I'm going to burnish that and do the other side. I could do these transfers all day long because they're so easy and the effect is so, so nice. So, yeah. I guess it's called a rub on. I don't think is it a transfer? Maybe it's a transfer. Anyway, they're rub ons though, guys. That's what they are. But, they've come a long way. So there's some beautiful stuff out there. And it really does make it look like it's kind of hand painted on when you get all done with this. So it's a very nice effect. So anyway, then I'm going to go ahead and peel that off and burnish it. And that is all we do on that one. I go ahead and at this point, I'm going to take out some wax that I have, and it is Inca Gold, and it is the gold brown gold, and I really love this stuff because it's when you have really vintagey things. And all I'm going to do is get a paintbrush, and you can use your fingers, but when I'm doing something specific like this, if I'm not just rubbing it all over, I like to use a paintbrush so I can kind of have more control over it. And I'm just going to paint the top. You definitely could spray paint these or do whatever, but I don't want to go outside. So, and I already have this, so I'm going to use it. And it doesn't take much, that's for sure. So I'm just going to paint that whole top. And if you wanted to, and you'll see me do this on the other ones, you could add some of this to the ornament too itself, but I don't do it on this one. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to take my top coat, and you can use any top coat. It doesn't have to be what I'm using, or, a spray or whatever. And I'm just going to go ahead and go over that. And it is crystal clear, and it has a little bit of a sheen to it. It says matte, but it's kind of has a little bit of a sheen. And I'm going to go over the whole thing. And what that does is that seals in the transfer. And it really does kind of make it meld into the paper. So it just definitely looks like you hand painted these little candy canes and the Merry Christmas on there when you get done. And this is a water-based product, so it doesn't take very long for it to dry. Then what I do is I have a red velvet ribbon, and I'm going to go ahead and I put a little glue on that top because it seemed like it was loose, just a tiny bit of hot glue. And now I'm just going to tie my red ribbon on there. And that, I put a tiny bit of glue on the back because I don't want it moving around. And then I just tie a kind of a sloppy big bow. And it takes a while for me to get my bow right. And I want the bow kind of centered and hanging on the sides of the candy cane, so I'm being kind of picky about it. But, and I really kind of want it to be kind of long and sloppy. And you have to put your bow on there first before you put your greenery because, I don't know, you have to kind of stick the greenery in there because you don't want the middle part of it showing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. These are some different pieces that I got from the Dollar Tree. And again, I'm going to put those on. And these are just, um, you know, half pieces, not like whole pieces. And I'm going to just hot glue those on. And then I'm going to take some little pine cones that I bought. And these pine cones are small. Um, so I'm looking through all my stuff, trying to decide. I look at the pickberries and whatever. And I decide I want to put some white and red on there. And if you notice, I've got that tape on there. It helps me keep my round ball from moving. Now I've moved on to kind of our other little Dollar Tree ornament that I had, and this time I'm going to use a napkin, and this is going to be kind of a rustic looking ornament, and I'm going to go ahead and take my water pen, and I'm just dotting it along. You can do this with just a paintbrush and water. I want a torn edge on this, so I'm going to just tear it out, and I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that my edges I don't want any straight edges on there. Like right there, I just tear that. And I'm going to have to make it smaller, but I'm just kind of sizing it up. So I decide what's going to be on the front and what I have to take off. So we're going to go ahead and make that smaller. So that's pretty much all we're going to have. So then I'm going to go ahead and place it on there. And you guessed it, we're going to just go ahead and put that on. You can use Mod Podge again, but then again, I'm just using my gel medium because I have it and I like it and it dries fast. And I know anything will stick. It sticks. Anything sticks to it. So we're just going to go ahead and put our gel medium down and put our napkin on there. And I am using a really soft brush because I don't want my napkin to tear. And this is a 3-ply napkin, so this is just 1 ply. You know how you just pull them apart and then you end up with the 1 ply. So it's very, very fragile. So you don't want to overwork your napkin because it will tear. And we're trying to get a decent image with this. So, and then I'm going to take my soft brush and my gel medium and I'm going to go over it. And it is going to have some wrinkles because underneath it it's not smooth. And the wrinkles actually are a good thing. You want it to look that way. It adds to the vintage look to it. So I'm going to just go over the whole thing. And after I do that, I'm going to dry it because we're going to actually put the same mirror image on the other side. So it just, I figure I might as well do it on this one. It kind of was crying out for that. So that's kind of what I did. So, and the big thing too on this is just making sure you get all of the edges down. So I'm cutting out my other piece. I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and put the glue down for that. And get that all down. And it doesn't, on the biggest thing in doing these ornaments is the drying. So if you can use a heat gun, but I will say this, folks, be careful because you can melt your the plastic ornaments really easily. But it really doesn't even take that long for any of these things to dry because they're all water-based products. So we're going to go ahead and do this one. And then again, I'm going to go over that again, just like I did the other one, making sure all the ends are down and then going over the whole thing and trying not to go too hard so I don't rip my ornament. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to mix up some of my glaze again. And this is the top glaze. This is not really glaze. I'm sorry. My top coat. This isn't a glaze. This is the top coat. This is my Penetrator paint um, top coat, and this is a sealer, and it's different than the glaze because it's a little bit of a shiny finish to it, and it will seal it. Now, the thing that this is going to do, guys, this is going to make that napkin blend in with the paper. It's just kind of like all kind of smushed together. If it was a white background on there, you honestly would not be able to see the white background. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the two bells that I had. And these are completely dry now. That's the most important thing. And I've kind of trimmed around the bottom. So I'm going to I did the same thing here. I had two napkins and they have some cardinals on them. And I'm going to try and figure out a way to fit these cardinals on there because I had my mind made up they're going to go on there. So I'm going to use these. I've already kind of cut them out with my water like we did on the other one. And what I'm going to do with these is I am going to just basically go through the same process that we did before and glue them all down. Although we are going to do something a little bit different in the end, but you'll see. So the important thing is I make sure I get the middle down first. And then I'm going to go in and add a little bit of extra glue to make sure the ends are all down really well. And just kind of smush it around with my fingers. Your fingers are going to get very, very, very sticky doing this. So have lots of wipes handy. Then I'm going to go over it. And again, I'm using a soft brush because I don't want to tear it. And I'm not going over the whole bell. I'm just going over the image to make sure it's glued down. And again, I'm using gel medium. Again, you could use Mod Podge. You could use white glue. So I'm going to do that to the second one. And honestly, it did not take that long to do all of these ornaments or decorations. It really did not. It was just the drying time in between, and I actually did not dry much of this with my heat gun. I just went ahead and let it just dry, went and did something else, came back to it. It's kind of one of those things. And I have this really cool, I was going to show you, but I forgot to put it in. At a garage sale, this lady had a noodle drying rack, and I bought it for $1, and I just hang up all my ornaments on there as they're drying. So I just walk away and let them do that. So now I got the IOD designs out again, and I'm thinking that I may want to put something on there with it, but then I decide I'm going to use this instead for one of our ornaments. This is the one that we did all the stamping with the Sampool stamps and the music, and I'm telling you, I absolutely love it. And I'm trying to think of something that would go with kind of a French theme. So I took the IOD transfer and I found these florals, and these are fantastic for ornaments. And you can make, 4 ornaments, with this. So anyway, what I'm doing is I found the IOD transfer stick. It's different than the other Prima one, but they work about the same. It's a little bit more flexible. So I start in the middle and I work my way out, and I'm holding my transfer down. And it really, honestly, is not that hard to do. They come right off. If pieces are not done, you just lay them back down. And excuse me there. They just transfer over. So not a tough thing to do. So this one I think I had little pieces that didn't when I got done. And if you notice, I just lay them back down and I get them all down. And again, you want to take your plastic and burnish over all of that because that gets all any little pieces that are sticking up laying flat, and you want that. Doesn't that look amazing? And wait until we put our finish over the top. It really does look like it's hand painted on there. So I do this on the back um, so that we have a design on both sides. And then I'm going to take, again, my top coat. And you do want to top coat those anytime you do it. And I put top coat all over it and let it go. So now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that my bells are completely dry because we are going to go to the next step in a little bit. I let them dry a little bit more because they're not all the way dry. And then I'm going to take my little reindeer ones, and I took some brown wax, and I'm just using a wax that I bought at Tuesday Morning, and it's Americana cream wax. And I'm going around the edges, and I'm basically darkening them, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of go into where the napkin is. Now, I'm not going to leave it that dark, but because I had already put the top coat, the finish on there, most of this will wipe off. So I'm just taking a wet wipe, and I'm going to wipe off a lot of it. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to accentuate the cracks and the edges and the papers. I want this to be a little bit more rustic. And I'm also trying to blend in that napkin because that napkin wasn't white. So I'm just kind of blending it. And what I'm doing now is I am going around my ornament, and I'm taking that same Inca Gold, the gold brawn, and I am painting the top of the ornament. So now what I'm going to do on this one is I am going to go ahead and sand my my images with a nail file. And I'm doing that because I want them to blend into the paper and to look a little chipped and messed up. Some of your image will come off. You do want it all the way dry, or else all of your image will come off, or a lot chunks of it. But you do want it all the way dry. That's why I showed you making sure it was completely dry. And I'm going to do that on both of them. And what that does is it's going to make it look like a kind of a chipped, painted on image. And because this has a white background, it's really going to look cool when we're done. It's actually gonna just blend in like as if I hand painted it, which could never happen, trust me. So anyway, I do that on both of them, and I'm gonna wipe them off with a wipe to get all the dust off. And then what I'm gonna do is I am gonna go ahead and take my glaze mix that I had before, and I'm gonna go ahead and I am gonna take that, and it has like a little tint of brown in it, just a tiny, tiny bit. And the reason I want that is that those napkins, the white background is still showing white. And when I go over it with this, what it's going to do is it's going to make that napkin blend in to the actual bell, because this is the same glaze and the color that we used before. So you're not even going to see any of that white background. You're just going to see any of the color. So that's what makes it look hand painted, and the fact that you've kind of sanded it and made it look kind of old. And so I'm going to do that all over and make sure that that image is painted in there, or basically covered. So it's not a hard process, and I'm just going over the image because we had already put this top coat. We'd already put the glaze on the whole bell before. This is the exact same glaze. We're just doing that again. And that's only to make that white part just blend in. It's not really to seal it, but I'm going over any spots that I might have missed before too, but that's pretty much it. And just I think I went around the top and the bottom, just to make sure. I didn't want to have it all, any pieces sticking up. And I think on this one, I felt like there were a few. So then after I do that, I'm going to go ahead and work on my uh, ball with the flowers on it. And all I have to do on this is I'm basically going to finish off the topper. And I take again my paintbrush, and this time I'm going to use my Rub and Buff. And it's an antique gold, and it's a little bit lighter color. I think it goes better with this. And I'm going to just take it and do the same thing I did with the Inca Gold, and I'm going to just paint the top of the ornament. Again, you could spray paint these. This stuff is, it won't come off later. Once it's dry, it's dry. When you get it on your hands, it takes a little bit. Use alcohol if you need to get it off your hands. That's a tip. So I go ahead and do that all over and finish these off. And I'm going to let that dry. Because, it doesn't take long to dry, but it takes a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to take the Rub and Buff and put it on my finger. And I rubbed a little bit off on my little mat there because I don't want it on real thick. And I'm going to actually put it all over my ornament in little spots, very randomly, very lightly, just to add the gold. And I also go over the flower. And anywhere that you had any kind of texture, or even I think at one point the flower split and I put it back together, it's going to pick up all of that. And it really, really looks cool. It just looks cool. It looks like it's painted on, and, it's just got the gold kind of coming off of it. But you still can see all the papers and the stamping. Cool, cool, cool. Anyway, I do that pretty much around it, and I kind of go and concentrate in the middle. You don't want to put too much. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff, guys. So now I have this beautiful ribbon. I've had it in my stash a while. I don't even remember where I got it. And I am going to try and tie a big kind of floppy bow on top of this. And I end up doing that. And then I used hot glue to kind of get it to be placed where I want it, because I really want this to be a very soft, romantic kind of look. So I'm going to tie this big floppy bow on the top. And on all of these ornaments later, you'll see in the end, I added little strings and things to the toppers later, which I don't show you. But on this one also, I used this this little hemp stuff that I put around the sides, and somehow I missed putting that in my video. This is the little deer one. And I'm sorry, guys, I did do some of this off camera because I guess I was just had the camera at the wrong angle or something. But all I did is I took this rope that I had, and you could use twine, and I hot glued it around the top and made like a little hanger out of it because I want this to be very, very rustic. And then I hot glued that trim all around the side, and that pretty much was all I did to that. I added a little bit of greenery like I did to the other ones. And on this one, I did not put a star. I was very tempted to put a rusted star, but I put 2 rusty bells, and I just hot glued those on. And then I, first I twisted them together, and then I tried to put it around the side, and it didn't really work. So then I gave up on that idea, and then I just decided to hot glue them. And the reason it didn't work is I already had my greenery on there. You really kind of have to put that on first. So then I'm going to take some picks, and because there's no red or anything in this, I'm going to stick with the green. They had some green picks like that and some white, and I'm just going to kind of match that color scheme with that. And those little picks have come in really handy. I haven't ever used the whole wire portion of it, but I'm sure I could. And now I'm back to my bells. And I am taking my rub and buff, the antique gold, and what I'm doing with that is I'm just painting the very, very top of my bell because it looks, a little rough. And we didn't completely cover all that because that's where we started on a lot of it. So we're going to go ahead and do that on the tops. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to go around the very rim on the bottom. And I don't want it perfect. I'm not looking for perfect because this is supposed to be old and rustic. So, but I am going all the way around. And this really does add a nice touch to it. It just gives it a little bit of a shimmer. So if you haven't tried Rub and Buff, get it. You'll get addicted to it really quick. And any of the little type of pastes and stuff are fun to work with. So I do that on both of these, and it doesn't take long. And I just want to make sure that I get the top pretty good because that's where we had some missing pieces in there. And I wasn't too concerned about that because I knew that I would be painting over that. And plus it makes it look, I don't know, more official, I think. Again, I go around the bottom. And yes, the inside of the bells have a lot of glue, but I go later and I just take a wipe with a little alcohol on it and I wipe out all that glue. So it's all gold inside. So I'm just going to do that all the way around. And I could do that with my finger, but I feel like it's a little bit more precise with a brush. So but that's just me. The one thing too on this stuff, what you want to do is it's not water soluble on the Rub and Buff. So I rinse out my brush with soap and water, but then I kind of soak it in alcohol and clean it with alcohol. That seems to get my brushes clean when I do that. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of the Rub and Buff and I am going to do what I did on the other ones, and I am going to go all over my bells with them, just a little bit here and there, just to give it a little extra pizzazz. Okay, so I'm going to take my Rub and Buff and I'm going to take it, and this is my ornament that had the flowers on it. And I'm actually taking a little bit of my Rub and Buff and I'm putting it on my big floppy bow that I have on top. So I guess I was Rub and Buff crazy. And now here I am taking my two bells and I have this cording. You could definitely use rope or anything that you have, but I have this beautiful red cording that I picked up at Hobby Lobby ages ago. And I think this will be absolutely perfect with this. It's the pop of red that it needs. And I'm putting a little glue on the ends because, boy, this stuff comes unraveled really quick. You could use tape or something. But as you can tell, my craft room is turning into a disaster. So finding that tape could be hard. So anyway, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I have some little wooden, I don't know what you call them. They're little finial type top things. And I bought those ages ago. I don't even know if I knew what I bought them for. And these actually fit on the ends of these really, really well. I mean, they're perfect for this. So I am going to go ahead and paint these little bell top things. And I'm going to go ahead and just put the Rub and Buff on those because I think that'll be, you actually don't even really see these except for on the inside. So you definitely do not have to have this. You could just tie a knot in your cording and it would do exactly the same thing. But I have these, so I'm going to use them. Might as well. I mean, I don't honestly have a clue why I bought them. I really don't. I mean, I have a lot of stuff like that in my craft room. Let me know if you do too. So now what I do is I go ahead and I clean out the inside with alcohol so that it is nice and pretty. I'm going to put my cording through there on both of these. And I've made it kind of long because I may hang that from a wall. I may hang it from a wreath. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I wanted it kind of long. I can always go back and shorten it if I need, or tie another knot or something like that. So now all I'm going to do is just take some hot glue and I'm going to put these little, I don't know what, caps or whatever you call them in there. So to me, it looks like little bell things. Um, I could have tied a knot higher up in these and then put these in there and then made it look like the little bell thing. But, I didn't think anybody's going to look in there. But so I don't really know why I even bother doing that, except that I had them. So I'm going to do that on both of these and get my bell kind of situated the way that I want it. And then I'm going to go through all of my greenery and, oh, that's a process, trying to figure out what you want on top. And I really wanted something a little bit bigger on these. And I had a hard time because it was either too big or too small. So anyway, I ended up with this holly on top because I really wanted the red to pop on that and have some green. And I tried these bigger pine cones. They were actually bigger little pine cones. And here I just wanted to show you that you could use stickers or stamps on this stuff. So here's the finished products, guys. I think they turned out amazing. I absolutely love them. What a great way to use our book pages. And it really was not hard to do. And I think the results are amazing. Tell me which ones you like the best. I happen to like these right here the best, personally, the plain ones. For the most part, it was super fun, and the rub-ons were easy. I know you guys have napkins, and I know you've got paper, so go ahead and use it. Have fun with it. See what you can come up with, and use your stash. Thanks for watching, guys.